Hi, and you're very welcome to the Leitrim GAA podcast here on LeiTrimDaily.com. I'm Breifne Earley, and joining me this week as a co-host is Aidan Rooney, of course, a survivor of that 1994 Connacht Championship winning squad. It's probably the wrong word to use, Aidan, but at this stage, it's getting so long ago, it almost feels like congratulations.
Thanks, Breifne. I feel great. Thank you.
That was my intention. We're going to be talking with Maeve Quinn about the ladies' final at the weekend, the league final, of course. Unfortunately, defeat to Louth in that for the ladies of Leitrim. We'll hear also from the manager Hugh Donnelly and the captain Clare Owens in that game. We'll be taking a look at the first full round of fixtures in the Masonite Football Leagues for all the clubs across the county. Niall Woods of Gortletteragh and Conor Sheridan of Melvin Gaels will be dropping in with us to tell us how their seasons are shaping up so far. Both sides off to wins on the opening weekend. And I'll be picking Aidan's brain on all of the inter-county action that's going to be coming up over the next couple of weeks. Of course, the under-20s, just a week and a half to their clash with Roscommon, while the minors, the under-17s, in action in just a little bit of time late in July as well. But Aidan, before we get into the Leitrim action, of course, you have a foot in both camps, well, at least a little toe in the Sligo camp in the shape of your son, Nathan. He was obviously involved with Sligo this year. Their season over. They got beaten by Mayo at the weekend. What did you make of that? I suppose Leitrim's next opponents in the Connacht Championship final in just under 2 weeks' time.
Well, we talked about it in a real sense, I suppose, a couple of weeks ago, Breifne, as regards what was coming down the track for both Leitrim and Sligo, without being flippant or without looking past, the reality was Sligo were very, very poor at the weekend. The performance level wasn't anywhere near what you'd expect it to be a championship time of the season. Yeah, we can talk about the gap in the teams all you want, but that's a futile argument in my book. We're spending far too long, even at national media level, listen to Mash O'Shea and the guys in last night. It's becoming a very dismal place at the moment. Championship fair against the bigger teams in Connacht, the gap is widening and it shouldn't be. The reality here is we're kind of throwing the towel in here, saying this is okay from the point of view of Sligo. But I think Tony McEntee has a big job ahead of him. Terry has a massive job ahead of him coming up in a couple of weeks to get the Leitrim lads ready for this challenge of Mayo and team in super condition. Mayo didn't play exceptionally well and still won exceedingly comfortably in the MacHale Park at the weekend. Small bits of glimmers of light for Sligo, but a long way to go and a lot of work to do. And you'd be hoping against hope that Leitrim can find some resolve, from last year's result, our performance against Mayo, and try and find, the talk down here is, Leitrim will be harder to beat than Sligo. Going to MacHale Park, I'm not so sure, but we're living in hope a lot, Breifne, in recent years, and I'd rather be living in a case of that we can put some solid work behind us and compete with these teams again. It's a very despondent place to be at the moment. You're listening to all the social media and all the national media about these gaps are there forevermore. Sure, we may as well pack it in if that's the case. If we're going to confine ourselves to the lower regions of football forever and say that's it, I wouldn't be happy with that outlook at all. And I think going forward, I think we have to kind of try and get this phoenix out of the ashes some way. And try and get ourselves back up. But yeah, very disappointing, Breifne. The game was very disappointing. It was over after 15 minutes of the contest, and that was kind of what was kind of preempted before the game, and it actually happened.
I think looking forward from our own point of view here in Leitrim, you've seen Leitrim once at least this season, if not twice. You've seen Sligo a couple of times through your coverage with Ocean and Mayo now after the championship game at the weekend. Do we have a chance of getting through that game? Obviously, from a Leitrim point of view, we'd all like to think with our hearts that we have a chance of maybe pulling off a shock. I know the absence of Cillian O'Connor was seen by many as an opportunity for us, but his replacement came in and did an impressive job. So are we really just looking at a steamroller event, in your opinion, in 2 weeks' time?
I suppose, from a reality point of view, we're looking at a similar result. From Leitrim's point of view, we have to get something out of the game. We've had a very, very poor return in the league, just a little bit worse than Sligo's, which is very poor in the end up as well. The game between the two teams was very close at the start, and that's kind of where it panned out. Both teams were kind of third and fourth in their group, and that's where they were. But I feel Leitrim have a massive hurdle ahead of them. The danger with players being out, Breifne, is that the players coming in are twice as hungry. And funny, I sat in the MacHale Park at the weekend and I watched Colin Boyle warming up for the full match, and he's like a man possessed to get in the Mayo team. And that's what you have. You have players of that caliber sitting in the wings for Mayo, trying to get into the squad, into the team on match day. And that's the challenge ahead for Leitrim, I suppose, is that Mayo have a pedigree outfit who are highly motivated. The loss of Killian O'Connor, obviously, as the talisman, is a huge loss. But the pressure will be dispersed onto the Tommy Conroys and the Aidan O'Shea's and Owen Donoghue's and these guys are there, and they'll respond to it. And unfortunately for Leitrim, it'll be enough in Connacht. I'd imagine for Mayo to respond to it, even for Galway and Roscommon, there'll probably be enough. But Leitrim's challenge is huge, and if you're Terry and the lads, what do you look at? How do you set up? Is it damage limitation, or do you have a cut at it? If you have a cut at it and it doesn't go well, you lose heavily. If you go damage limitation, you lose, and you lose by maybe less, but you don't score. So it's a no-win situation, and I suppose from the point of view of the league performances and stuff, it was bar the Antrim kick at the end. It was a dismal enough league campaign as well for Leitrim, and we just need to get a lift out of this, Breifne, going forward. Just something to kind of grab onto for next season to try and motivate and re-energize the county. Never mind the players, just re-energize the county.
You talked about hunger, Aidan, and I suppose you talk about players eager to get that jersey when they get that opportunity. And it's something, I suppose, that anecdotally, if we look at the Leitrim squad, we've had a few defections, players who've opted out since the league ended for various reasons. And there just seems to be that lack of hunger to get back in a Leitrim jersey, maybe. I suppose maybe people share your belief that there's not really much hope of Leitrim pulling off a victory against Mayo, and they've opted for whatever reason, whether it's an opportunity to play 4 or 5 games with the club, or whether it's an opportunity maybe to just step away from an environment they weren't getting what they wanted out of, whether it's game time or enjoyment or whatever it might be. What do we have to do as a county and as a setup to really re-energise the will and the want for lads to get back into the county jersey? Because the girls seem to have it in spades, even after the defeat of the weekend. We'll talk to Maeve about that in a while. It seems to be there for the ladies' football, but what do we have to do on the men's side to really bring back that desire to want to be in a Leitrim jersey again?
Well, I think
not that it's missing for everybody. It's just there seems to be that kind of on the fringes, at least. I'm not going to commit because it's not there for me.
Yeah, well, I suppose the idea of sacrifice, Breifne, and that that kind of in the modern world, I suppose things have changed. We want bang for our buck immediately, and that's right through everything in life now. There's the things players now are calculating the amount of time they'll spend and all this stuff. And I suppose really at the end of the day, you're trying to look first of all at quality and all that kind of technical side of the game. Do we have the players? I'd always argue that we have the players. I don't give in to the fact that we can say at the start, we don't have the players, we don't have the resources. That's too easy an out, in my opinion, because I think we have to look deeper than that, and we have to look at like there's a lot of tradition and a lot of stuff going on here in the background that we kind of have to pay some service to. It's not just okay to say I have enough of this, I'll walk away. There's a massive responsibility attached to being a county footballer and carrying the mantle for the rest of us. And I suppose that's something that you kind of say to the players. There are guys there who are heart and sleeve and they're busting their gut all the time, and there are lads who are there kind of maybe as you said, the lads that left the panel or whatever for whatever reason. It's not a good sign, Breifne. We can dress it up however we like. We can dress it up however we like. We can say, it's commitments to other things or club football or whatever it is. That the ominous result against Mayo is on its way. you can blame lots of stuff, but the reality is here, when you are getting an opportunity to put on a county jersey for Leitrim or for any county, like that's something that shouldn't be sneered at or scoffed at. And I'm not saying these lads don't have a right to make a decision and do whatever they want to do, but I'm just saying at the end of the day, we need our best players available to us. We need everybody committing to the cause, and sometimes the cause, Breifne, isn't nice. Sometimes it's not nice to sit on a bench and not have a jersey and not get in a team, and sometimes it's not nice to have to train 3 or 4 times a week, and that's not nice stuff all the time. And I suppose that's kind of what you're looking for, to see, can we get back to a level where lads are willing to commit everything to the cause. And people talk about the difference in the elite teams, and the teams that aren't getting what they think they should get. I would argue the difference is in the player commitment levels overall. What are guys doing away from training? It might be a bit harsh, but I think it's the reality. What are they doing away from training? How much of their lives are actually committed to this county football cause? I think if we delve deep enough into that question, in a real sense, and people can say, well, Aidan Rooney, you're talking rubbish or whatever, that's fine. But let's delve into that question really deeply and see exactly how much commitment we're giving, and maybe then we might get closer to the answer as to why we're not even scratching, the counties that, because Gaelic football has always been cyclical. It's always been cyclical. For us, the cycle might be a little bit longer than other counties because maybe we don't have, the volume of players coming through on a regular basis, but they do come through. And I suppose at the end of the day, we can't throw in the towel because we owe it to a generation of lads gone past, and a generation. We lost two icons in Leitrim GA this year, in Packy and Cahill, and we owe to their legacy, and we owe to the legacy of the younger players that are coming. That hasn't even started yet. We do owe to them to make sure that we give ourselves, the best opportunity to perform, and this means an awful lot to people, Breifne. And sometimes players forget that. Sometimes players forget, the amount of power they have and they possess when they take on the jersey, and then they go out in the field and represent us. And that's kind of, I suppose, maybe the emotive side of what we're trying to get. As I said yesterday, I watched my old players, Saturday Murphy's Park, watching my old players, sitting on a bench, in the stand, some of them waiting to get on the tail end of a jersey to play with Mayo. And that's kind of what I suppose we want every county, to be successful. You have to have that. At the moment, as you said, there are players kind of disenfranchised from it for whatever reason. That's not good. For whatever reason they're gone, it's still not good for us. So look, there's no easy answer to this question. There's no quick answer, no quick fix. A lot of hard work, a lot of hard commitment, and a lot of getting guys all up to the same level as their counterparts across the way in Ballina or Castlebar. Why can't we be as good as those fellas? Of course we can, but we just have to go on and find our way back up to that level again.
Absolutely. Well, listen, let's change the mood a little bit. Let's try and get a bit more positive. And unfortunately, the ladies had a disappointing finish to their league campaign with defeat in Louth. But it was a very positive campaign, lifted the spirits, I think, of anyone following that story through that league campaign and onto that final against Louth at the weekend. Let's have a chat with Maeve Quinn, who was at the game on Sunday afternoon. Now, of course, the Ladies' League Odyssey finished in disappointment in Clonus on Sunday. Maeve Quinn.joins to look back at, I suppose, what's a disappointing end to what had been a very impressive league campaign, Maeve.
Yeah, I suppose everybody's expectations, certainly mine, and I think all our expectations was that they would do the business yesterday. Unfortunately, they had the worst of possible starts. You know what I mean? I think, was it 20 minutes by the time 4 goals had gone in? Certainly, I think
it was 3 in 10 minutes. I actually went back to look at it today for some reason. 3 in the first 10 minutes. Yeah, it was disappointing.
Woeful start and very hard to recover from. Now, I mean, the fact that they were only beaten by 4 points at the end of the day shows the kind of fight that is in the team and the ability that's in the team, considering as well as that there was posts hit and bars hit and what have you. But very disappointing, and I think very disappointing for the girls because they'll not be happy with how they played, and they certainly won't be happy with conceding those 4 goals the way that we did, in the manner that we did.
I suppose since Hugh has come into the position, there's really been very little scrutiny of it because everything has gone so well. It's the first kind of hiccup in the year and a half. Obviously, COVID is a bit of a hiccup, but on terms of on the field of play, it's the first kind of setback or hiccup they've had. Can you see them rebounding from this?
Well, I think I can. I mean, I think the point about it is too, it's a huge, yesterday, and I think we will learn from it, you know what I mean? And the girls will learn from it. Huge learning experience from the point of view of that it's an extremely young team, you know what I mean? I think bar probably about 6 players, every single other player on that panel is 24 or under. You know what I mean? So it's a very young team. So I mean, and I think they will. And I mean, I think they're out next Saturday, the 10th against Fermanagh, and that'll be a good one too. Well, Saturday week, I should say, will be a good one for them in terms of regrouping and getting back out of it. And I mean, big learning experience, very young team, and I suppose some have been in All Ireland's at underage level and what have you, but few would probably have been in an All Ireland final before at the same time, and the intensity that's needed from the start of a game for that sort of thing and what have you. And Louth brought it. I mean, Louth were runners up to in 2018, and you could see that they were hungry for it. Not that Leitrim weren't, but from the start, Louth really had their homework done.
I suppose maybe looking back at the game, like Leitrim outscored Louth in the end, scores wise. I suppose what kind of gives you an indication of how much work they did after the poor start, So I suppose you talked off air a second ago about the favourites tag. Like we've all suffered from that, I suppose, over the years in Leitrim. When you do carry that mantle, it's a very rare occasion you carry it, and when you do carry it, it's very difficult to carry it. And I suppose from that point of view, it was a great bounce for the rest of the game.
Yeah. No, and I mean they did. You're quite right. They had 15 scores, Louth's 13 scores. But and I mean, with such a horrific start to the game, the fact that they came back and I mean MacHale Park's shot that came back on 1 inch to the right, and that was in the back of the net. It was extremely unlucky. I mean, Murren equally had an unlucky miss as well. And then as well as that, Murren was through one time and the referee had the hand up for advantage, gave her free when Murren had actually broken through. There was, there's more, and it was at a moment in the game, it was probably about 8 minutes from the end of the game, crucial time where Murren was actually had broken through the players from the advantage that was being given, and the free was given when she was through on goal, basically. Do you know what I mean? And very frustrating. She had got a free earlier too. I think that she'd have preferred to have been given an advantage for it, but in this particular instance, she was through. And and as I said, the favourites tag is very hard. I mean, you're going into a game, you really have to have a ruthlessness when you're favourites, because it's very easy to actually go into the game too relaxed or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And
I'd say that with the younger players is probably something that not having the experience of those type of big games,
to be honest,
maybe.
Well, I don't know. I think I would say that the younger players that were playing got stuck into the game. I think the younger players were faultless that were on the pitch, to be honest with you. And I suppose we got caught, I think, being a little too loose in the back. I mean, if you concede 4 goals, you've got to look at your back line. You really do. And I suppose before that, and I had said this to you previously, Breifne, we conceded 2 goals in a previous game and 3 goals in another game, in games that we were well ahead of the other team. So, it does, we do need to look at that,
Yeah, and I think the manner of the goals maybe was more disappointing than actually conceding them, because all 3 in the first half, they were either from a sloppy mistake or just a girl just having a run and literally unmarked, sticking the ball in the back of the net by the time she kind of made her burst. I thought as well, Maeve, you didn't mention the 2 goalkeeper saves late on in the game as well. Like, Leitrim absolutely had the opportunities to finish the game off, and I wouldn't be taking maybe the complete despondency from the game. It was a really good performance, bar that first 9 or 10 minutes. And I think Leitrim showed they were probably the stronger side. They just couldn't claw their way back into the game. Is that fair to say, Maeve?
Absolutely. And you're quite right. There was 2 fantastic saves made on top of the ones that hit the bar and hit 2 posts on top of that. Absolutely, you're quite right, because the goalie made huge saves for the two that you're talking about. And I mean, I do think fair play to the players because they almost did it. They almost did it from what was a horrific start. They pulled it back. And I mean, 4 points is nothing to lose a game by in it. And I wouldn't be at all despondent on it. And I think maybe a great lesson, hard lesson, it has to be said, and you'd love to see them up in Division 3, but they will get there. A hard lesson to learn. But do you know what? It might be just the sort of, if you like, shock that was needed.
Well, maybe let's hear from some of the people involved in the game yesterday. First of all, let's hear from the Leitrim manager, Hugh Donnelly, and the captain, Clare Owens.
Clare Owens, disappointing day?
Yeah, it's always disappointing when you lose. When it's a final, it's probably a bit more so. But disappointed with the results. We gave Louth too much of a start. We worked really, really hard to make up that difference, but we kind of just ran out of time, I suppose.
In terms of that start, I suppose 3 goals in the first 8 minutes, it's very hard to get yourself back into a game, but you did manage to die with your boots on at least, created the chances towards the last quarter of the game, just couldn't find the back of the net with enough regularity other than the penalty.
Yeah, I didn't actually know it was 3 goals in 8 minutes. That is quite the hit to take. We did get we created chances in the second half there. They didn't come off on the day. On another day they might. You know, that's sport for you. You'll often get them when you mightn't deserve it. I felt we deserved something out of all the opportunities that we had, but again, look, we weren't entitled to anything here today. We came the same as Louth, looking to win a final, and they came out on top.
Ladies sport, and particularly ladies football, has a habit of nearly turning games around like that. You beat them by 8 points earlier in the league. Today, a 5-point margin on the other side. How tough is it to take that, knowing that on any given day you could have won this?
Yeah, it is tough to take, and especially, you know, we knew people talked about an 8-point winning margin and, you know, a clean sweep in the league or you know, all results going our way. We knew that game was going to count for very little here today. They weren't 8 points worse than us back in Ballinamore. They were probably 5 points better than us today. I'd like to think if we got them again we could even it up, but on the day Louth were fully deserving of their win.
I suppose attention now turns to the Connacht Championship in a couple of weeks' time. Thoughts on that? Have you even had a chance to even think about that, or has it just been focused on today up to now?
Yeah, well, we reset for the All-Ireland Championship now against Fermanagh on the 10th of July, so I suppose we might take the week and just go at it again. There's not a lot of time, which is probably a good thing. Like, we've a lot of hard work done, so it's not back to the drawing board and fresh slate and start all over again. We'll build on the last session that we did, learn from today and bring it forward with us.
In terms of the next week, I suppose a lot of players maybe coming out of today's performances have to pick themselves up a little bit. They weren't bad performances, but just the mood will probably be a little bit down. How do you turn that around with such a tight time frame to that championship game?
Well, like, we know what we're capable of. We know today that we didn't do ourselves justice. We know that we can do a lot better. So, you know, obviously today, tomorrow, maybe Tuesday we'll be disappointed, but very quickly we kind of have to leave that aside. We'll take a few learnings from it and we move on. I'd like to think that every girl going in there today that got the chance to come onto the field will ultimately be happy that they got the run out and that they did everything they could. Like, we didn't as a team start very well, but we dug ourselves out of a hole and we could have done it. On another day we might have.
Listen, Clare, hard luck today. I know it's tough to take, particularly I suppose the fact that you're going to be in Division 4 next year is probably the most disappointing thing once the trophy has been handed out. So best of luck for the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll be looking at a good championship run.
Yeah, thanks very much, Breifne.
Hugh Donnelly, your thoughts after that defeat?
Look, we're disappointed. More so from the fact that we didn't, perform in the first opening quarter in particular, and as the game went on, we started to get into it. But look, you can't afford to give Louth that start. And credit where credit's due. Look, they punished us, and if it was the other way around, we'd be quite happy to accept it. But look, it was a pretty disappointing opening 17-18 minutes.
A blistering start for them, 3 goals in the first 8 or 10 minutes. You did fight back well, and I suppose for the rest of the game you were probably the stronger side. You just couldn't seem to either beat the post or beat the goalkeeper when the chances did arise. Yeah,
that's true, and I can't fault the girls in particular the second half. We fought tooth and nail and threw the kitchen sink at them, but look, it wasn't to be our day. As I say, credit where credit's due to Louth. They performed really, really well. They had their homework done. Their keeper pulled off 3-4 good saves. Which in turn, in any other game, they probably wouldn't have been in. But look, it is what it is, and you know, we've got to learn from it. Use it as this experience.
2 weeks now to the championship. What's the plan for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, well, look, we'll give them the week off. They've worked really hard this last number of weeks, and you know, despite all and despite losing tonight, we've made massive progress individually and collectively as a county. So it's important that we go out and let them enjoy tonight, and you know, give them the week off and let them go back to their clubs and let them analyse the game themselves. And then collectively we'll do it at the end of the week, and we just pick ourselves up and we'll go again for Fermanagh in 2 weeks' time.
Now, you've spoken at length about this, was the project that you're involved with here to kind of lift the fortunes of Leitrim. How much of a setback is this result today in terms of the overall plan, no promotion that comes with the defeat?
Look, it's a setback to a certain degree. It depends how big a setback we let it be, I suppose, to be perfectly honest. We can regroup and go at this and enjoy the championship and throw the kitchen sink at the championship. And look, if we got everything first time that we went looking for, then you know, life would be so much simpler. We've got to learn from it. We'll go back to the drawing board. We'll I suppose we'll see things today that we haven't seen maybe up to present time. So look, it's a case of learning from it, using it as an experience, and we'll just go again.
So what if you could go back and re-watch the last 60 minutes of action? Is there anything you do differently in the immediate
look, no, not initially. You know, at the end of the day, we try to do matchups and get the matchups, and unfortunately for different various reasons, you know, you've got to give Louth credit. Louth were so much sharper, and you know, they were very clinical, they're very direct, and we just, for some reason, and let's be perfectly honest, we have struggled on occasions throughout the National League in certain quarters. We you know, outside of the Limerick game, we started pretty much from the get-go. Other games we struggled. Against Antrim we struggled. So that's something we need to address. But look, listen, as I say, we'll go back. I don't want to make too many comments because I want to go back and analyse it properly and take it from there.
Listen, hard luck today, and the very best of luck to you in 2 weeks' time. I'm sure we'll be chatting to you ahead of that.
No bother. Thank you very much.
So there's the views of the manager and captain after Sunday's game. Disappointed, but I suppose very optimistic about the chances coming into the Intermediate Championship in a couple of weeks' time, Maeve. Now, I suppose one thing that struck me as I was watching the game yesterday was we made a couple of early substitutions to bring in the likes of Myrne Devaney and Alva Clancy, who didn't start the game. We've seen this through the league that the perceived, maybe by the supporters at least, strongest 15 haven't necessarily started. The likes of Ailish Kernan has been left on the bench. Alva, Myrne have come off the bench at various stages through the league. They would be seen as our strongest players by most observers. Yesterday in a final, can you get away with that strategy in an All-Ireland League final?
We didn't get away with it yesterday anyway. Yeah, I suppose I believe that I heard that Ava had been suffering from a knock that she had got in the Manor Hamilton game, so I'm guessing that that's why she wasn't starting, that they were trying to see if they could mind her or whatever. Warren, I think she has commitments to soccer, but I think we're all in agreement that anybody and a number of people have spoken to me on it, that she certainly should be one of our 15, even if she is committed to training elsewhere, shall we say. She's definitely going to train anytime she can make it when she's not, say, if you like, away with international duties or whatever else. And yeah, we could certainly do with her starting. I think championship, I suppose for the league, a manager is always going to try and give players a chance to show themselves and prove themselves and what have you. And I don't think Myrne or Alva, for that matter, need to prove themselves per se. But I'd be hopeful for the championship that, and I mean, I genuinely believe that most managers try to start games with the strongest team that they can. You know what I mean? Now, I suppose we certainly have got away with it in the league, and it has been amazing to see there's a huge strength in the panel, and it is a very hard job with the panel that's there at the moment in terms of I don't envy anybody trying to make choices on the players that are starting. You know what I mean? And I suppose you want to see how people are going to do, but and it has been great to see certain subs coming on during the year, but championship is coming up next, and championship is a different animal, shall we say, to league, you know, and like that, an All-Ireland League final is a different animal to playing league games.
Yeah, no,
I suppose Maeve, the only question I'd have on that, I suppose, from an external viewpoint is, how managers handle that situation internally. We don't know. We don't know what Hugh Donnelly is saying to the girls as regards the players who are playing, I suppose, soccer or whatever else. And it's a difficult enough situation for a manager, having been there as well in that situation where you have, people who are fully committed to, say, your game, Gaelic games, and girls then who are boys who are between both. And I have sympathy for Hugh Donnelly in that situation, because I suppose he's trying to keep his camp strong and keep his camp, I suppose, all together and tight, and still play his best team. And it's a difficult area, and I can understand both sides of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're quite right there.
100%. It has to be said, though, there was a direct clash yesterday between the final and a soccer game for Murren, and she chose the GA. So it's not a case of soccer wins every time with Murren. There's very much a priority list, it seems, in play. One incident that I liked, after the crowd had gone, everything, there had been, Leah Fox was taken off late in the game. She didn't seem too happy about the idea. There was a bit of an exchange between herself and Hugh on the sideline when they came off. They obviously had different opinions. It happens. It wasn't a big deal. But I saw afterwards, as they were making their way out off the pitch, Hugh called Leah over, and there was a little exchange. And it ended with a fist bump and a smile. And I think, to be fair, and we may have kind of got into a little bit about it, but I think he's done a great job, and I think he has the respect of the players, and I think he's really put together a really professional setup there. I think that backfired on him yesterday, that ambition to keep everybody to the rules. Sometimes the rules don't quite work, if that makes sense. And I think yesterday maybe was a lesson for everybody involved. But I'm really excited about what the potential for them. I know you've tipped them as a serious contenders for that intermediate championship. I think they'll have learned from Sunday, and hopefully we'll see the better side of that in the next couple of weeks. Maeve, thanks very much, as always, for dropping in, having a chat with us about the ladies' game. Did you have a game yourself this weekend? Were Bridget's in action?
No, thankfully, we had a bye. We had a bye this week, so Sunday was free and what have you. So I was able to head down the road early.
Yeah, I did catch the two senior games over the weekend. St. Francis had a good victory over St. Joseph's on Friday night in Drumshambo, while Ballinamore beat Glencairn Manor, off the top of my head, I think it was 2-16 to 1-8 on Sunday. Very interesting scorelines thrown up because, of course, the county girls not involved this year. So it's given a real nice kind of opportunity for girls to get in who might have made starting 15s before, to get 60 full minutes under their belt, and for others maybe on the fringes to get some time on the pitch. And I think we're going to see some interesting scores in that competition, but at the same time, I think we're going to see some players coming out of it at the end, which is ultimately what it's about. Maeve, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Breifne.
Olcan Conway started the championship season on Sunday against Mayo. Exciting times for Leitrim Hurling?
Yeah, really looking forward to it now. A bit tough ask now. Mayo are a fabulous team. They beat Donegal last weekend, so they're top of the table. We know what's coming ahead of us, and we're preparing as best we can and getting ready for them. So yeah, looking forward till Saturday. I think Saturday 3 o'clock in Castlebar as the time, and just really looking forward to it at this stage.
Yeah, of course, we're getting very familiar to sending teams to Castlebar with the footballers there the following week. In terms of, I suppose, the season so far, league campaign, your thoughts looking back at it now? Frustration is probably the overwhelming factor from the league. We were bitterly disappointed with the first loss against Louth, and once you lost the first game, even though it was controversial circumstances, we knew we couldn't win the league. So that hit the players hard because they had their heart set in trying to win the league this year. So took us a while to recover from that. We used the opportunity to blood on some young players that we have and experiment a little bit with the team and get match fitness and match play into players that hopefully will stand to us for the championship. So hopefully it'll bode well for us. We didn't play well in the league, but we learned a lot of harsh lessons and a lot of things that we've worked on since the league. So hopefully that'll all come together on Saturday and we'll show that we've improved since the league and hopefully keep improving. Second season at this level, the Nickey Rackard level, after success at Lorimar 2 years ago. What have you learned from last year that you'll be hoping to bring both on the pitch with the lads and off the pitch to the game at the weekend?
I suppose it's even tougher this year now because two teams were relegated last year, and there's a lot less between. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's a very tough competition. Like you have Donegal, Mayo, Tyrone, and Armagh, and there's nothing between any of them, and then ourselves. So what I've learned, if you don't play for 70 minutes, you get punished. That's one thing. We did play 45 minutes against Mayo last year and put them to the pin of their collar, and just a 20-second spell where we unfortunately missed a goal chance and conceded a goal. The game just, the heads went down, the game got away on us. So look, that's one thing, you can't drop the heads when things go against you, but you have to put in 70 minutes against these teams. If you don't put in 70 minutes, you won't win.
How are you looking in terms of player availability? Have you a full deck to deal from?
Short answer is no. Quite a few injuries, but still very strong. Well, we're very happy. We're very happy with the players that are coming in into the panel this year. They've really taken on board what we've talked about and improved. So it's fantastic, and we're going to end up with 3 games in 3 weeks or 3 games in 4 weeks. So the squad is going to be, tested to the limit regardless. So we'll have a few lads missing on Saturday, and that's what it is. That's what the squad is for, and hopefully, I'm sure Mayo will be missing a few as well. So that's just the nature of the beast.
Explain to us a little bit maybe how the fixtures work in this competition, because a lot of people won't be that familiar with this around the county. You've 3 teams on your side, 2 teams on the other. You might explain how that works.
Well, yes, there's 3 teams on our side, so we did get the tough side of the draw with Donegal and Mayo. They both were in the final last year and are the 2 teams that are favourite to win it, and probably rightly so. Donegal beat them in the final last year, so we play Mayo and Castlebar this Saturday, and then we play Donegal at home next Saturday in Park Sean McDermott. So if we could get a win, we could get a semi-final spot. Not guaranteed, obviously, but it goes a long way towards securing a semi-final spot. And if you lose them 2 games, you go back into the quarter-final and you play the losers of either Tyrone and Armagh, and basically a quarter-final, and the winner gets back into the semi-final and the loser gets relegated. So it's a relatively condensed championship. There's no real breaks in between it. If you could secure a semi-final slot on our side of the draw, you would have a weekend off, and the other semi-finalists will have a weekend off. But if you don't, you're playing every weekend for nearly 5 weeks till you get to the final. So it's going to test your squad no matter what way it is. So but the lads are really looking forward to it. We will try and put on a fantastic performance, and that's what we'll be trying to do.
You saw last year maybe in the club football championships here in the county that when you're playing week on week, it kind of lets you build that momentum, and you kind of can build up a head of steam that can drive you on from game to game. Is that something you look forward to, or do you prefer to have that little bit of extra time between games to kind of plan it out better?
I suppose if you had no injuries, you'd like to be playing every weekend, yes. If you had a full squad, if you pick up injuries and niggles and problems, then you'd be looking for a weekend off that you could try and get lads recovered and back on the pitch again and get them moving again. So look, there's pros and cons to it. There's no doubts about it. If you could get a 1 or 2 under your belt, you'll build momentum, and that that goes a long way at this level. If you can go on till any of these games confident and the tails up, we can hurl with any of the teams that's there.
I suppose this season with the streaming of your league games earlier against Louth and Cavan back in Park Sean McDermott, it gave maybe people around the county who haven't been to a Leitrim hurling match the opportunity to maybe get to know some of the names and watch a bit of the action. 500 or 600 or 700 people watching those games at various times, it brings a little bit of an extra level to it than maybe would have been at games before. Does that factor in at all in terms of the kind of the coverage you're getting?
Well, I suppose not really. When we would have our own little sort of bubble, and we wouldn't be thinking outside of that. The fact that the games were shown was fantastic, and like you say, there's lots of people that probably never seen a Leitrim hurling game watch them, and that's brilliant. I suppose the other factor is we would have liked to win a game, which would have, we haven't shown what we're capable of in any of the league games, which is probably the most disappointing factor out of the league. That in glimpses we played for 15-20 minute spells and we hurled very well, but then we just didn't do it for the full game. So yeah, look, we'd always take all the support we can get. We know next week, if we get to Park Sean, we'd be hoping we'd have our full complement of 100 people there, and even this Saturday against Castlebar, and to be getting behind these lads, because they do work very hard, and sometimes you don't always get the rewards for the hard work you do, but we're just hoping that we can put in a really good performance against Mayo and show what we're capable of. And if we do that, you don't know where we'll be by the end of the game,
I suppose that's my final question to you. As people coming in maybe without much knowledge of the game in the county and at this level, what's success for Leitrim at this level? Is it getting to a semi-final? Is it competing for the title? Is it just surviving and staying in the grade?
I suppose you can't judge that until the season is over, but our goal is to win a Nickey Rackard. We believe we're good enough to win a Nickey Rackard. It is tough. Mayo, Donegal are hard to beat. Armagh, Tyrone, very good teams as well and very hard to beat. But we're here on merit. The lads got up to this division and we managed to retain it last year and put on a very good performance for 45 minutes against Mayo. And there's no point saying otherwise. Mayo have a lot of top class players and very good hurling clubs. So we are probably slightly punching above our weight, but we believe we're good enough to be here and we believe we're good enough to stay here, and we believe we're good enough to win the competition. So that's our aim. For me, success is I dare say it, winning trophies. I believe winning a trophy. We were hoping to win the league this year. We didn't do it. Next year that will be the goal for the players again. Go and win that league, and then if you can win a league, you can build into the championship. So we want to stay in the Nickey Rackard. That's first thing, and second thing, we also want to win a trophy, and that's where our aim is. We want to win. Simple as that.
Listen, hopefully that all kicks off on Saturday in MacHale Park in Castlebar. Olcan, thanks very much for joining us and having a chat with us.
Thanks very much, Breifne. Thank you.
Now back here in the county, it was of course the first full round of fixtures in the Masonite Football League in Division 1, 2 and 3, and full 4 games played on Saturday evening in Division 1 of the competition. We're going to talk to Conor Sheridan of Melvin Gaels in just a few moments after his 13 points to 1-8 victory over Leitrim Gaels in Leitrim Village. But the other results, just for accuracy: Mull 317, Glencar Manor 4 points, Ahawillan 118, Anaduff 313, and St Mary's Kiltard 3-6, Sean O'Heslin's 2-13, a 4-point victory for the Ballinamore men there. But as I mentioned, Conor Sheridan of Melvin Gaels joins us to chat about his game and how things are going up in Kinlaw at the moment. Conor, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thanks very much, Breifne.
Well, let's start with the game. You were down in my neck of the woods, Leitrim Village, on Saturday evening, and you left with the 2 league points, up and running, first win of the season, first game of the season. You must be delighted to kind of finally be back playing a bit of football competitively, and to get the win is always the icing on the cake.
Yeah, look, it's brilliant to be back playing football, I suppose, after the whole lockdown, and everybody been cooped up for the last year or so. So no, it's great to be back playing competitively, and it was good to get a result on Saturday, and good to get the first 2 points. It was a tough enough game, I suppose. Both teams were probably under strength with missing some county players from both the under 21 and senior panels, but look, I think it was both teams were glad to have the game, I'd say, and we probably have tougher games ahead in the league and championship to come, I'd say.
In terms of, I suppose, the game, what can you tell us about the game itself? Did you lead the whole way through? Because all we have to go on really is a final score.
Yeah, I'd say it was fairly tight. It was fairly tight throughout the game, I'd say. I know we probably had a few goal chances. So did Leitrim Village in the first half. I think there could have been about 3 points in at half time, maybe. And then, Leitrim Gaels came back into it well in the second half. We had a few chances goal chances again to put the game away, which we didn't take. And then Leitrim Gaels came back and scored a goal probably with about 5 minutes left, which put a point between the teams. And then, we managed to hold out. I think we were under a bit of pressure at the end. But yeah, it was good to come away with a victory. I know we lost our first round of the championship in Leitrim Gaels last year, so it was good to put that to bed.
And Conor, how did the players find the lockdown? I see here our own lads in Sligo. How did the Melvin Gaels lads come through it? Are you all through injury free? Are you all back kind of where you'd expect to be back at? Or have you had some surprises? Like, are you looking at lads and kind of going, lads haven't done enough? Or how is it lying for you that way?
Yeah, look, I think it's probably been tough enough. I suppose you've missed a good bit of your pre-season per se, but I suppose everybody's in the same boat. We've been back training since the lockdown lifted. I think was it around the 13th of May or something like that. And yeah, look, I think the lads are putting in a good effort. And yeah, the fitness levels have definitely improved in the last few weeks. And yeah, I think the 4 games that we're going to play now in the league will definitely, they'll help building up to the championship.
I suppose the fact too that there's no relegation from the league, I suppose, is kind of, I suppose, in some ways, from the manager's point of view, I suppose James is happy enough that the you can get your performances in without any kind of repercussions of them, and you can try things out and all that kind of stuff without having the pressure of actually having to ensure league points. Your county players, I suppose, are a big loss to all teams at the minute, but I suppose it's hard to build when you don't have them around you too.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose it is, but in the same token, it probably gives the younger lads a bit of a chance to, get a few games at senior level under their belt, and that should bring them on as well. So, yeah, look, I think it's just good to be back playing competitive football after the lockdown. I think everybody's delighted to be back out playing. I know you're probably missing a little bit of the competitive bite if there's no relegation from the division or whatever. But yeah, I think, look, it's in the current circumstances, it's good to have the games, and I think it'll benefit all clubs before the championship. It's something that we didn't have last year. I think we only had 2. We probably had 2 challenge games, before we played the first round of championship, so that was more difficult. So yeah, I think it's good to have the few league games before the championship this year.
Yeah, it's a more realistic season, isn't it, Conor? It's a more realistic kind of, I suppose, approach. I know the games mightn't be competitive per se, but at least there's kind of some structure to it this year. You're getting games before you go into championship football, and I suppose one thing I jumped to is kind of the elephant in the room, Conor, as regards to championship. And I know you'd be looking at it in Carrick and Mara Hamilton, but Mohol at the moment, they're putting down a serious marker. I've seen their 2 results to score 6-17 in the first game and 3-17 against Mara Hamilton the weekend. And I know teams are under strength, and I know they're not putting out their full sides and all that kind of stuff. But it's a serious marker from the point of view of getting ready for championship football.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they seem to be flying. 2 very high scoring results for them. So I don't know, we're playing them in our 3rd game, so it'll be a tough one away from Mohol as well. So
I saw a bit of their game at the weekend. The scoreline doesn't flatter them at all. They were very much stronger than Manor at the weekend. But I think it's probably more of a sign of some of their more experienced players not being involved with the county, the likes of Danny Beck, Donald Flynn, plenty of other players there as well, Ronan Gallagher to name but a few. The whole way through was nearly littered with former county players, whereas Manor didn't have that same experience to call on Saturday evening. Conor, you mentioned about been missing your players, sort of 20s obviously, and seniors too. Since last year's championship, there's probably 3 or 4 of the starting forward line that aren't involved with you anymore. Aren't involved in this league campaign. Dara and Killian obviously in with the seniors. Quaylon in with the under-20s. Emlyn has moved somewhere we won't talk about when Aidan's here. But so did it give that opportunity for younger lads maybe to come in and stake their claim and maybe show a bit of leadership and put their name in the frame for a jersey come a couple of weeks' time when the championship rolls into town?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I think we probably had three debutants that never played senior football before, and it started on Saturday. So yeah, no, it was good to get them lads in and get them some experience under the belt. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so look, I suppose everybody's on the same boat for the league. They're missing some of their key players, which it's probably not easy. And yeah, tactically and stuff, it probably it's not great, but at the same time, look, it is what it is, and it's good to just get the games, I suppose. Yeah.
But you're right, Conor. I suppose it's across the board. It's across the board for everybody, and it's kind of, I suppose it is an even playing field in that regard. Is that everybody's in the same boat and getting the same? But at least you made a point earlier on. You're right. At least you're getting games. You're getting games, competitive games of a nature. Whereas last year you didn't have that preparation. You had to go straight to championship football, and you weren't sure where you were. Some teams got a good run last year. Some teams didn't get as good a run. And this year it'll be a little bit more calculated going into championship. You'll know better where you are, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I think the games will stand to everybody, I'd say. Yeah.
In terms of I suppose the ambitions for this year, obviously championship semi-finalists last year, you go into this with a league campaign, you're up and running now, first win. What's the hopes for the year? Where can Melvin Gaels go to this year? Can we see them back in a semi-final this year? Can we see them maybe going one further?
Yeah, we'd see. Look, I think we're probably a team in a little bit of transition. We've a lot of younger players. So we'll see. We'll take every game as it comes, I suppose. And yeah, look, I think if we could push on from a quarterfinal, like St. Mary's picked us last year in the quarterfinal. So look,
apologies. Yes, mix that up the round. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the year before we bet St. Mary's in the quarterfinals. But yeah, look, if we could take a step further than last year, I think we'll take it from there then.
Fair enough. I can't really argue with that. Apologies, I was mixing my ears up. I knew you'd matched up with them twice. Conor, listen, well done on the victory, even though it might be the most popular around my neck of the woods. But congratulations on a good start to the league campaign, and we'll be chatting to you and your teammates as the season progresses. Thanks for dropping in.
Thanks very much, Breifne. Thanks.
Best of luck, Conor.
There was also a full round of fixtures in Division 2 of the Masonite Football League played on Saturday evening. Phoenix St. Callian's 2-5, Drumreilly 2-10, Drumahare 4-8, Auckland 1-16. A fairly high scoring game there, plenty of goals at least. Carrigallen 2-14, Balnaglera 3-8. And finally, Allen Gaels 1-5, Gortletteragh 2-15. Of course, Gortletteragh getting ready as well for that intermediate final leftover from last year. We're joined by their player, Niall Woods now. Niall, you're very welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Breifne. How's things?
Great, you're more than welcome. Good start to the season. You must be delighted to leave Drumshanbo with the victory on Saturday evening.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose even kind of more importantly, injury free as well. These few weeks, trying to get games under the belt, get the fitness up. But like if you can come away with a clean bill of health is the main thing really. And just try and get the mileage into the legs ahead of the final against LIDL.
So the same question, Niall, we're asking all the kind of players we're talking to the minute, and I see my own guys here in Sligo the same. How have you come out of the lockdown? Have you come out as good as you'd have expected? Injury-wise, number of players wanting to play, all that kind of stuff. Has it been good?
It's probably a bit of a mixed bag. We have a few injuries there, but I suppose the final, although it would have been great if we could have played last year, it's been a good kind of focus point for hitting the ground running. Like lads came back probably in better shape than they would have if we had maybe a 6 or 8 week lead into our first championship game. But knowing that we had that game there against LIDL and we needed to be able to hit the ground running, I think that focused the minds a bit more. Lads made sure to keep themselves ticking over. But look, like any team and coming back after a long layoff, like them soft tissue injuries. We have a couple of them now as well. So just trying to keep that to a minimum is a big focus. But to be fair, it was actually maybe a little bit of a blessing that we have something like a final to look forward to, that we can actually come back, and we need to hit the ground running. We've no time for kind of a slow start, really.
Yeah, I saw you a couple of weeks ago against Leitrim Gaels in a challenge match over in your park over there. You looked in fine form that night, able to score at will nearly in that game. And Leitrim Gaels have been thereabouts, quarter-finalists in the Senior Championship last year. You must be fairly optimistic about your chances. I hope, or Alan Gaels beat the weekend, also a senior side. You must come into this game with high expectations for that build-up for that intermediate final.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, one thing we've been doing well is we've been scoring well. Now we probably have a little bit more work to do on the other end of it. But something I've even noticed from the other results, every team seems to be scoring well. So we all probably have a bit of work to do on the other end. Yeah, like we're probably about maybe 2-3 weeks ahead of other teams fitness-wise, because we have to get ready for the final. So like you can read into it and think maybe, okay, Leitrim Village are a senior team and get big heads about that, but you have to realise where you are. They're prepping for a game 3 weeks after our final, which is August time. We have to hit the ground running on the third weekend in July, or third weekend in July. So yeah, you kind of have to take the good with the bad and try and maybe reality check yourself sometimes as well. Like, it's great to be beating senior teams, but realising that we're probably on a little bit further down the road fitness wise as well, so that makes a big difference.
You might talk us through the game at the weekend. How did it play out?
It was it played out in very sunny conditions. It was tough, and it was hard, but obviously good for getting you prepped for games further down the line. It started off ourselves. We kind of took a bit of control in the first quarter, I suppose you could call it, and then things kind of evened out as I went in the kind of middle 2 quarters. And then, to be honest, the scoreboard probably flatters us. We've done a lot of scoring in the last between the last water break and the end of it. We got 2 very quick goals, which probably put a gloss on it that maybe wasn't fair. A lot of game was played around the middle of the field. It was very physical. Can definitely feel it in the couple of days since anyway. Like I think Alan Gaels brought right back to a draw at half time, or just shortly after half time, and then we did take over a little bit. I suppose that's probably where the fitness is telling that we are that bit fitter at this time, because we have to get ready for the final. But yeah, as I said, the goals really just made it look like there was a bigger gap than there actually was. There probably really wasn't. We were very evenly matched. There was lots of interesting individual battles. If you were maybe a neutral looking in, you would have been good to see it. And I suppose we got 2 kind of handy enough goals that we weren't able to get in for much chances other than that. And this time we managed to take them. Other times you might miss them and get blocked down or things like that. But yeah, it probably put a bit of a shine on the scoreboard that wasn't really there, if we're being honest with ourselves.
I suppose as regards, Niall, your Gortletteragh as a club and the ambition for the year ahead, I suppose I'm a fair bit older than you, and there's a huge proud tradition in Gortletteragh as a senior club over the years. And do you find that pressure on yourselves now, as the next generation of Gortletteragh players, to bring the club back up to that level
definitely
again, and
Yeah, we do, and like I suppose the expectation around the parish will be that we wouldn't just be maybe a yo-yo team up and down. We have to be up there and also challenging, not just kind of up there and getting to quarterfinals and being safe every year. So look, we have a lot of work to do to get to that level, and the first step is getting right back up there. I suppose it's a funny year with an intermediate final, and then the next year 2021 championship kicking off a couple of weeks later. Whoever does win that final, if they don't, they have to make sure not to get carried away, because they could find themselves right back down intermediate by the end of the year. So like if it's us, we need to first win the game and then get our kind of ducks in a row for senior championship, in the 2-3 weeks later, whatever way the fixtures pan out. But yeah, exactly, and that's the ambition. We need to bring ourselves forward, but also not just be happy enough to be senior and have that tag, but to actually be challenging realistically, like years ago when it was like you're considered top 4 every year and kind of in with a shout of winning it. Look, we'd love to get back to that, and that is the ambition. It's just, I suppose, being a little bit patient is key.
I want to ask you about that, Niall, as well, because it must be very difficult to be focused on an intermediate final, and then it is a 2-week turnaround. It's really tight to the first round of the fixtures of the senior or intermediate championship, whatever it is. Like, how do you deal with the excitement of winning a championship in that tight window when you're preparing for another one? Or how do you deal with the disappointment and not let it affect you into those 2 weeks if it doesn't go your way? At the end? I guess, be realistic. It's as much chance of either happening, really. It's a very tight fixture between yourselves, not enough in the final.
Look at it. It's 2 evenly matched teams. Like, they got the better of us last year, so we're under no illusions of what's going to happen. But to be honest, Breifne, it's probably a case of we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We have to just do job one on the third weekend in July. We just have to get to that far, and look, at either team should be in good nick to take on whichever championship they have to after. As I said, cross that bridge as you come to it. And if it's a senior championship, you would be hoping, if you're getting fit enough for a final to win intermediate final, that you would be fit enough to partake and challenge in the senior championship a couple of weeks later. And then similar to that, on the intermediate side, you should be ahead of teams in terms of conditioning and stuff like that. Haven't had that focus point a bit earlier in the year. So yeah, look, across that bridge as we come to it, we'll deal with whatever's thrown at us afterwards. That's definitely a conversation for maybe the Friday night after the final or something like that.
I suppose, Niall, looking at what's happened, and I suppose your preparation for the intermediate final, what's happened on the inter-county scene, I'm just wondering from my own perspective, and probably every player and manager's perspective, are we going to see the same in club football? Teams that have prepared better than other teams and come in, because there's a massive sway at county level at the moment between teams, and we're seeing it in championship games now, where there's massive gaps, and you're kind of wondering, I wonder, will the club scene be something similar? Or, will there be teams that have been very diligent over the 6 months and have prepared well? And, like yourselves, obviously you have a focus, which you've pointed out a couple of times, and that's great. So you might be in a very strong position going into this year's championship, because you're ahead of the chase. Yeah,
and honestly, that would be what you'd be maybe hoping for whatever comes down the line, that momentum will carry you through. Like, whichever team wins the final, it hasn't been kind of unusual for, and even in Leitrim from over the years, whatever team wins the intermediate, the following year, even though there's a bit of a gap with a winter there, the following year there's momentum there that brings them usually, oftentimes, well, obviously Melvin Gaels were the team that went straight and won it. Ourselves, I think we went straight into a quarter or a semi-final the following year. So I suppose people would say winning is a bit of a habit. So having got to a final, if you can be lucky enough on the day to win it, then that'll carry you through, and you're almost kind of on a bit of a high, and you're kind of floating. So it comes quite easy to you maybe afterwards. But definitely, if you haven't prepared, or you will be found out. I suppose there's no way of hiding. The kind of proof will be in the results. Whoever does the most work on before they get to a final and during it in the game usually come out on top. It's not really rocket science sometimes,
Absolutely. Well, listen, Niall, the best of luck next weekend. You're playing Carrigallen at home. Another step closer to that final. I suppose it's very hard not to talk about that with yourselves, because the league is the league this year. There's very little at stake. There's no promotion, no relegation. So I suppose it's really just a case of fixtures leading up to that championship final in a couple of weeks' time. So best luck on Saturday evening as we play Carrigallen in Gortletteragh. And I'm sure we'll be focusing in a bit more on you over the next couple of weeks ahead of that intermediate final. So thanks for joining us this evening.
Lovely stuff. Cheers, lads.
Best of luck, Niall. Okay. All right, cheerio.
As well as the top two divisions in the Masonite Football League, there was, of course, 3 games played in Division 3 of the competition as well, and they were all finished. We'll go through the results with you. Now we have Clune 2-8, Glenfarne Clare 8 points. Solid 6-point victory for Clune there, while Ahavas enjoyed a win against Bornacoola, 2-9 to 7 points in Drummond. And then a massive high-scoring game. Kiltubber 3-14, Esslin 5-14, and by all accounts, I believe an absolute masterclass from Conor Byrne in Esslin, scoring virtually every score Esslin got out of a massive 5-14. I think I heard he got 3-14 out of 5-14. Apologies to anyone I may offend by omitting them, but from 3 or 4 different sources I've heard he had a masterclass, nearly got every single score. Aidan, you're used to kind of, I suppose, in your playing days, putting up big scores. You were the free taker. You were kind of the target man with the club as well. But did you ever score everything in a scoreline like that? Not almost everything in a scoreline like that.
No, no. I always had help. I always had some help.
Yeah, it's a huge addition, and we wonder maybe what a fit Conor Byrne difference we might make in a county team, but maybe those days have long passed for him. Of course, we had other games taking place over the weekend in the Reserve League in Division 1. We'll go quickly through the scorelines there. Glencar Manor, 7 goals and 9 points to Melvin Gaels' 113. Drumkieran, 315. Carrigallen, 8 points. While Fermanagh failed to field a team against St Mary's. In Division 2, Glencar Manor 3-9, Ahawillan 3-8, a nail-biter there, single-point victory for Glencar Manor Hamilton, while Kiltubbard 9 points and Duff 2-16, Shauna Heslin's 3-11, Alan Gales 2-6. It's an 8-point victory for Ballinamore in that particular clash. In Division 3, Alan Gales 9 points, Mull GA Club 3-13, St Mary's Kiltard 7-7. That's 7 goals and 7 points to Bornaculas 3-9. So a fairly comfortable, I make that 10-point victory for St Mary's in that particular clash. Gortletteragh got a walkover against Ballinaglara, who failed to fulfil their fixture in Division 3 of the Reserve League, while Maeve Quinn.joins or St Pat's in Drumahare 2-15 to 5 points against Avas in that particular game. There was a couple of games played in the Ladies Leagues as well, in the Spring League Group 1 with the senior sides, the stronger sides. Ballinamore, Shauna Heslin's 2-16, Glencar Manor 1-8, St Francis 3-9, St Joseph's 1-8. That game played on Friday night. On Sunday morning, St Mary's Kiltarhart 6 points, Drumahare 6-16, Kiltubbard 2-13, Mull 7-11. That sounds like a shop, I think, at this stage, but a 7-11 the final score for Mull there. Dervla Byrne has been in prolific form for them in this league campaign. Drumkieran in Division 3, should I say, Drumkieran 9-15, Anaduff 6 points, a very young Anaduff side, while Fina St. Collins gave a walkover to Kildare Gaels, so no game played there. In lots of action, nice to be back in the club scene, plenty of games to be played. I know you're back involved, you had a game yourselves over the weekend in St Mary's and Sligo. What have been, I suppose, the major learnings from you based on what you've seen of the Leitrim club leagues so far? Because obviously we've talked about it with the lads, there's very little to play for other than getting the fixtures fulfilled. But it still seems to have that little bit of competitive bite going to it in most of those fixtures.
I suppose once you put a ball in play, Breifne, it'll be competitive regardless of the. I know we've said the competition's ardent, and there's no outcomes to them, and that's fine. But the big overriding factor, I think, for all the clubs is the amount of players that are getting football. The fact that it's clashing with the county football and county hurling is giving massive scope to clubs to play younger players. We've 3 games played in Sligo, and Leitrim has just started last weekend with a couple of games played. You're going to get a massive amount of younger players through into adult football this season in particular, because there's scope to do so. In normal season preparations, you mightn't have the same volume of, say, senior football for players that you have at the minute. You might have reserve team or, second team or third team football, certainly, but the amount of young players that I see, in Leitrim playing first team football, that has to bode well, for teams going forward, to increase their number and to give more lads the taste of that kind of action. Some of the results are a bit lopsided. Obviously teams with a greater volume of county players are going to suffer a little bit more. Lots of teams in transition at the minute. We're talking about teams that are kind of going through some massive changes. Carrick are up and coming. Manor Hamilton are trying to resource themselves. Melvin Gaels are coming with a new brand. There's lots of new stuff going on, and you have the Gortletteragh coming up, and Anaduff fighting to get intermediate football and senior football. So it's very vibrant at the moment, and it's kind of what you would have expected coming back from such a long period of inactivity. So it's great to see, but particularly younger players, younger lads, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds are all getting a chance now to play in adult teams and senior teams in particular, and that's the one thing I would take out of it. It's great, because I suppose, again, going back to years, Breifne, younger players nowadays don't realise how young we played adult football. You know, maybe it was wrong, maybe it was right, I don't know. But, you know, I think a lot of us were playing at 15, 16 years of age in adult football, and there wasn't a question asked. Whereas nowadays that would nearly be seen as, you know, some kind of abuse to put lads at that age into adult football. But look, at the minute lads are getting in playing, and that's fantastic for the clubs.
Absolutely. No, I think my first adult game was a couple of weeks after my 16th birthday, and that wasn't that unusual back then. So I think this is better. I think the fact that you have to be over 17 to play is more positive in the long run, but times have certainly changed. Looking forward to the weekend, of course. We have a full round of fixtures. I suppose the highlight of the weekend is that Leitrim clash with Mayo in the Nickey Rackard Cup. The first game for Leitrim, Mayo already up and running. They beat Donegal last week by 3 points. They topped the group and can seal top spot in that group with victory over Leitrim this weekend in MacHale Park in Castlebar. We're looking forward to a couple of Mayo Leitrim clashes in that storied venue over the next couple of weekends. There is, of course, a full round of games on Saturday at 7 p.m. in the Masonite League Division 1. Sean Heslin's host Mohill, while St Mary's travel to Kinlaw. They'll face Melvin Gaels. Glencar Manor and Aughawillan will do battle in Manor Hamilton, while Leitrim Gaels make the journey to Annaduff for their last game in that particular group. In Division 2, Ballinaglara and Dromahare will do battle in Ballinaglara, while Gortletteragh face Carrigallen. Auckland host Fina, and Drumreilly will play Allen Gales at home on Saturday evening. And then finally, Division 3, Clune play Drumkieran, Estlin face Ahavas, while Glenfarne Kilticlogher will play Bornacoola. Plenty of games, and then I suppose just one other thing to mention, I suppose, in the next week or so is that Under-20 Football Championship clash on Tuesday, the 6th of July, in Dr. Hyde Park in Roscommon against Roscommon. This side ran that Roscommon side pretty close back in the championship in 2018 as under-17s, and are fairly optimistic. There's a good team around them. Benny Guckian we'll have on the show next week talking about his side's chances. But there's a good experienced bunch of people around that. Kevin Ludlow's the goalkeeping coach, Enda Lyons is involved as well. Jimmy Guckian, one of the coaches, another St Mary's man, but they've a lot of inter-county experience off the pitch with that particular bunch of lads, and some really exciting players coming through there, the likes of Donald Casey, Paul Keeney, Tom Pryor have all tasted action with the seniors in the last 12 months. But there's some really good youngsters coming through that have played a lot of senior club action last week. Are you familiar with them, Aidan? I know you would have been in and around Sligo minors as those lads were coming through underage.
Yeah, they're a bit younger than the lads I would have seen, but I'd be familiar enough with them, with some of the older lads coming through that group. Like, this is a shot to nothing in the sense that form doesn't mean anything in this competition. You know, it's starting from a clean slate. All the teams are going to be kind of coming out of the blocks the same pace. There's nothing gained here. A couple of challenge games played, you know, so I don't think Brendan Guckian and his guys will have any fear going to Hyde Park to take on Roscommon, particularly this grade. You know, we talked there earlier on about the senior situation at the moment. That doesn't pertain at under 21. You know, under 20. Sorry, you know, under 20 is a competition where all these lads are, you know, relatively the same. You know, they're in college. They're all doing the same stuff. There's not the gap that maybe has developed, you know, by the time they get to 24, 25. So I'd imagine that, you know, Leitrim are going there in expectation more than hope, you know, that they can get a result. And look, I suppose in the season that's in it, Breifne, you know, the reality is here we need some positivity. We need something to give us the lift, and now it's down to the younger lads, it's down to the 20s and 17s to find something. I know the 17s have a real crack at a Connacht final as well, playing Sligo in a one-off semi-final in a couple of weeks' time. So, you know, there's hope here with the underage grades that we can get restore something from the season and move forward. Because look, at this all seems doom and gloom sometimes when you talk about, you know, your current situation, but one game changes all that. You know, one performance, one game. We've all been there. You know, we're looking at stuff and kind of going, the glass is half empty, and all of a sudden the glass is half full again, and we're all off and running again. So look, I think Brendan Guckian is long enough around the business. You know, the team of guys with him are all experienced guys. You know, these lads are going in a good position into Roscommon with nothing to fear, and I think I'd be optimistic that Leitrim can go and can get something out of that game.
Obviously, the prize is a semi-final against Sligo, as you mentioned. So probably, well, I don't want to jinx anybody, but it's the perceived easiest run to a Connacht final is to avoid Galway or Mayo, and both underage sides have a chance of doing exactly that if things go their way over the next couple of weeks. Aidan, it's been a pleasure as always. Thanks for dropping in. The best of luck to your St Mary's side over the weekend, but we'll also wish everybody playing games here in the county the best of luck over the next couple of weeks. Of course, this show, as always, brought to you by winawedding.ie, your chance to get your hands on a €25,000 valued wedding at Lochrain Estate and Gardens. It's a competition being run by Leitrim GAA in conjunction with the venue. You can get all the information and purchase your tickets for €25 in that draw at winawedding.ie. I've been Breifne Earley. Thank you very much, Aidan, for joining me. It's a pleasure, as always. And we will talk.
Thank you.
Anytime, and we will talk. Oh, by the way, before we go, I better, I suppose, mention it. Colin Regan, due to be with us next week, is taking a skip in the rotation, and that is because he is currently on paternity leave. He and his wife welcomed a new baby into the world this week. Congratulations to Colin. We will catch up with him in a couple of weeks. We'll find out all the gory details and all the beautiful details of that as well. Aidan, thanks very much for joining us this week. We'll be chatting to you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Breifne. Thank you.